exposed the amazing secrets of medieval families who survived 100 long, freezing nights together, in the heart of a small, isolated village, where the wind howled like a banshee and the snow blanketed the rolling hills. The Kinney family faced the cruel grip of winter. The air crackled with despair after the sudden passing of John Kinney, the devoted father who had toiled each day so that his children, Clara and Thomas, could dream. Now, at just 17, Clara's spirit burned bright against the bleak backdrop. She yearned to be a healer, to break free from traditions that bound her home and drown her aspirations in the icy grip of routine. But the weight of their father's legacy pressed hard on Thomas's shoulders. At 19, he felt obligated to keep the struggling family farm afloat. The Kinney home, once warm with laughter, now felt like a battlefield. Clara gazed at the crumbling walls, her heart aching for the dreams she held close, dreams that seemed worlds away. She caught her brother staring vacantly at their father's half-finished hearth, an air of helplessness clinging to him. "We can't just sit here, Thomas," Clara urged, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to go learn. I could save lives." Thomas clenched his hands, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "And who do you think will keep us alive while you chase your foolish dreams?" His voice was heavy, filled with an anger born of grief. Each word was a dagger aimed at her heart, and she felt the sting of his anger even as she understood it. The village outside remained silent, wrapped in its own struggles, yet Clara sensed sympathy lurking in the glances of neighbors who also fought against the merciless winter. The isolation tightened like a vice around them, pressing in and smothering any hope. As tensions rose within the family, a chill swept through the Kinney home. The wind screamed through the cracks in the door, a mournful plea for warmth and unity. In the midst of a heated argument, a glint of light caught Clara's eye. Buried beneath the floorboards lay a forgotten chest, a trove of coins their father had hidden away, a secret to be revealed now, at the worst of times. "This could save us!" Clara exclaimed, heart racing, but Thomas's brow furrowed. "We can't squander it. We need to invest in the farm." His hands shook, unsure whether to grasp that hope or let it slip away. Clara's frustration boiled over. "Can't you see? We could help our neighbors too. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The siblings stood in their once sacred home, now a battleground. Clara's voice rang with passion, while Thomas's stoicism risked driving them apart. As snow raged outside, their argument grew louder, emotions flaring into an inferno. It was clear the decision they faced could either bind them together or fracture their family at the seams. Their father's legacy loomed large, a specter forcing them to confront their fears. In their hearts they felt the question pulse. Would they find a way to bridge their differences and face the storm together? Or would the chill of winter claim them, forever unhealed? The frigid air gnawed at the Kinney siblings, each breath a visible puff in the starkness of winter. The weight of their father's legacy pressed down on them like the thick snow accumulating outside. Clara's eyes glinted with resolve, the forgotten coins a spark igniting her dreams. "We can't sit idly. We can help each other. We can heal this village, Thomas," she urged, hope lacing her words. Thomas shifted uncomfortably, his heart a battlefield of loyalty and ambition. "What if it doesn't work? We can't afford to lose everything," he countered, his voice trembling slightly. The uncertainty gnawed at him like a relentless wolf stalking its prey. Clara stepped closer, her voice softening. "But what if it does? We can't just mope around here forever. Dad always said to follow our hearts." The mention of their father seemed to grip Thomas, his eyes flickering with a vulnerability he rarely allowed to surface. In that silence, the howling wind outside transformed into whispers of encouragement. Clara seized the moment, conviction swelling in her chest. "Let us use the coins to send me to the city. I could train to be a healer, I could make a difference." The passion in her voice wrapped around Thomas, begging him to see a different future. I don't know, he let out a shaky breath. The conflict within him became an overwhelming tide, battling the pride he felt towards his father's hard work. Yet Clara's plea echoed in his mind, haunting yet hopeful. Clara continued, eyes pleading. Think about how many lives could change. Not just ours. The whole village needs help. If I learn, I can come back and tend to the sick, the wounded. I can be someone. Thomas looked at the coins, their dull glimmer contrasting sharply with their potential warmth. But how will we eat while you're gone? What if something happens? His voice cracked with the weight of worry, the thought of failing his family gnawing at him relentlessly. Trust me, Thomas. Trust that this is the right thing. Clara's voice trembled but remained steady. For a moment, silence enveloped them, the bickering of the storm outside fading into an eerie calm. Isn't this what Dad would want? She continued, spotting the flicker in her brother's eyes. To see us flourish? Isn't that why he saved this money? Maybe Thomas's brow furrowed deeper. He weighed his brotherly instinct to protect against the flickering hope ignited by Clara's words. Torn and desperate, he tried to find common ground. What if I come with you? I can help you find your way. Clara's heart leapt at his suggestion, a warmth blooming within her despite the biting cold. You'd do that for me? Someone has to make sure you come back intact, he offered half-heartedly, but the corners of his lips turned up, and Clara could see the glimmer of possibility there. Just as uncertainty seemed to lift, a crash resounded outside, the barn door flinging open. White snow poured in like chaotic waves, bringing with it a looming shadow. A figure trudged through the blizzard, an unmistakable silhouette emerging against the white fury. Help! A voice cried out, ragged and desperate. Clara's heart raced, dread surging through her veins as she recognized the voice from the village. The siblings exchanged a quick glance, fear and bravery colliding fiercely in their eyes. Go check it out, Thomas urged. I'll watch over things here. As Clara raced to the door, 1,000 thoughts flashed through her mind. The village was depending on them more than ever, and so much was at stake. Would an opportunity for a brighter future literally walk through their door? With every step toward the stark cold outside, she felt fate pulling at her, a weaving of lives and paths yet unknown. The storm howled around her as she stepped forward, unaware that this moment could change everything for the Kinney family and force a reckoning neither sibling saw coming. What awaited Clara and Thomas at the threshold? Clara pushed the door open against the wind, a force of nature tugging at her from all sides. The cold bit her face and fingers, but adrenaline surged through her veins as she squinted into the swirling snow. The figure stumbled closer, revealing a familiar outline. It was Mrs. Jenkins, her face flushed with cold, panic fluttering in her eyes. Clara! Thomas! She gasped, nearly collapsing as she reached them. Clara quickly rushed to steady her, worry tightening her chest. What happened? Are you all right? Clara asked, the urgency flooding her voice as she pulled Mrs. Jenkins into the warmth of the barn. The older woman panted heavily, inhaling the warm air desperately as the wind howled outside in protest. It's the village, we need help. There's been an accident at Old Man Harris's place. The roof collapsed. People are trapped. Thomas's expression transformed. Fear and determination coiled together, swirling in a new urgency. How many? He asked, glancing between the two women. 3, maybe 4 of them. I don't know how bad it is, but their cries, you must hurry. Mrs. Jenkins pleaded, her hands trembling against the cold. Clara felt her stomach drop. This was it, this was why they had to act, why they couldn't give up. She grasped Thomas's arm. We have to go. He shook his head, the protective instincts surging in him. What about the coins? What about you training? Training can wait. People are in danger. She snapped, her voice sharp as glass. This was the reality she wanted to change, the lives she longed to touch. Thomas's brow furrowed, anguish flickered across his features. I can't let you go out there alone. Clara's heart beat wildly against her ribs. She needed him by her side, now more than ever. Then come with me. We can't lose anyone else. We won't. He hesitated, the weight of responsibility battling against the instinct to protect his sister. Finally, he nodded, resolve hardening in his eyes. All right. Let us do this together. They gathered a few supplies, blankets, rope, anything that could help. Clara felt a surge of hope, each item a lifeline. They couldn't change the past, but they could change this moment. Stepping back into the blizzard, the storm roared as if it were alive, swirling around them with icy fingers. Clara shivered but pressed on, her determination as fierce as the wind. Every step felt monumental, each breath a testament to their strength. As they neared Old Man Harris's house, an ominous silence gripped the air. The path was littered with debris, remnants of a life interrupted. Clara's heart raced, a cadence of fear and purpose. Suddenly, a muffled voice broke through the chill. It was weak, desperate. Help! We're stuck. Over there. Clara pointed, spotting a shadow trapped beneath the collapsed beams. Stay close, Thomas urged, setting his jaw as he began digging through the snow and rubble. Clara joined him, hands moving instinctively, urgency clawing at her. Hold on! She shouted toward the voice as she shifted debris. The sound of wood creaking under pressure echoed in the stillness, a reminder of how fragile life could be. With every piece they removed, Clara's hope buoyed, but doubt gnawed at her. What if they were too late? What if they couldn't save them? They worked feverishly until finally, they unearthed a small figure, a young man, shivering and pale but alive. Relief burst within Clara like sunlight breaking through clouds. You're going to be okay. We're here. But as she helped him out, another cry pierced the quiet, a cry for help that sent chills through Clara's spine. It was deeper, sharper, echoing with unmistakable despair. Clara! Thomas shouted, as he stumbled forward, eyes wide with realization. There's someone else. In that moment, they both knew the stakes had risen. It wasn't just about helping the village anymore. It was about survival. Clara took a deep breath, preparing herself for the danger ahead. What awaited them in the shadows could either shatter their hopes or forge a new destiny. Who else is trapped? She wondered, knowing that some answers could change everything. Clara held her breath, fear swirling in her chest as she scanned the wreckage, her heart pounding like a drum. The shadows danced around her, and every creak of shifting wood made her jump. We have to find them, she urged, her voice rising above the fierce wind. Thomas nodded, eyes intense. I think the shout came from under those beams. He pointed toward a larger pile of wood that looked dangerously unstable. If we can lift it carefully, we might get to whoever is trapped. Clara took a determined step forward, the cold metal of the rope cutting into her palm. Let us do it. Together. They struggled, pulling at the heavy beams, sweat forming beneath their jackets from the effort, even as the cold wind continued to batter them. They lifted one timber, a brute force of adrenaline pushing them forward, but then the other beams shifted ominously. Clara's breath itched, her gaze locking onto Thomas. Careful! We can't let it fall! She shouted, as he braced himself against the weight. With one final grunt, they managed to toss the beam aside. Clara immediately dropped to her knees, feeling the icy ground biting at her skin. Beneath the rubble laid a woman, her face pale and strained, trapped under a heavy piece of debris. Please help me, the woman whispered, her voice shaking like a leaf. Clara recognized her, Maggie, a baker from town. Such a vibrant soul, now so fragile in the clutches of despair. Hold on, Maggie. We're going to get you out, Clara shouted, her heart racing as she motioned for Thomas to help. Can you lift that corner? Thomas asked, glancing at Clara. They exchanged a determined look as they braced themselves, their hands gripping the debris, preparing for the lift. On three, Clara said, breathing shallowly, ready for the challenge. 1, 2, 3. Together they heaved with all their might, sweat mixing with the snow as the beam groaned under the pressure. Just as they thought they could free Maggie, the wood creaked ominously again. Clara's heart sank as she realized the danger of their current position. Thomas, stop! She yelled, heart racing. We need another way. It's too unstable like this. He paused, gasping for breath, and nodded. What if we dig around her instead? It might take longer, but it's safer. There's no time, Maggie cried, her once calm demeanor now turned frantic. I can't breathe. It's too tight. Clara felt her chest tighten at those words. They didn't have time to argue. I'll dig, you hold that beam. Grabbing a small shovel that had been left in the snow, she started to dig away the debris covering Maggie. The cold earth felt sturdy against her palms, and with each scoop, hope flickered brighter within her heart. As Clara worked, she could see the fear etched on Thomas's face. We have to hurry. Someone might still be. Maggie's our priority. Clara interrupted, focusing on the woman's face, glistening with sweat and fear. Just a little longer. A tense silence enveloped them, punctuated only by the crunch of snow and the rustle of wood. Finally, just when she thought despair would overwhelm her, Clara felt the ground shift and Maggie's arms slipped free. Got her! Thomas shouted, as he carefully maneuvered to grab her and pull her closer to safety. Maggie's breath was sharp, shaky. Thank you, she murmured, tears streaming down her cheeks. But before Clara could reply, a sound caught her attention. A distant voice echoed across the darkened landscape, falling like a promise through the storm. Help! Is anyone there? Clara's heart plummeted. There's someone else, she cried, adrenaline spiking again. We can't stop now. Thomas, catching his breath, looked at her with fierce determination. Let us move. We know what to do. Where there was one survivor, surely there were more. Clara grabbed the rope again, her spirit ignited by urgency. But the weight of her own heart was heavy, not just for the unknown survivor shouting into the dark, but for everything they could lose if they didn't act fast. Who could it be? She wondered, as they rushed in the direction of the voice, knowing that each moment slipped away like snow through her fingers. The weight of their mission settled over them, but they had come this far. They couldn't turn back now. Not when they could save lives. You hold on to hope, Clara, she murmured to herself, the snow swirling around them like a storm of fate. But even as they pushed forward, the stark reality loomed ahead. What if the next cry was someone they cared for deeply? The chilling possibility stole her breath. Clara steeled herself, her voice fierce and steady. Let us go find the others. The weight of the snowdrift bore down on them as Clara and Thomas plunged deeper into the wreckage, hearts racing at the call for help. The wind howled, whipping at their clothes, but the distance of the voice drew them closer, an invisible thread pulling them through the chaos. Keep your eyes peeled, Clara urged, glancing over her shoulder to check that Thomas kept pace. They moved in tandem, scanning the debris, desperation fueling every step. We've got to find the source. Right. He nodded, his brows knitted with determination. They pushed through another cluster of fallen wood and shattered glass, each sound shifting the debris unnervingly. Clara's fingers began to numb from the cold, but she barely noticed. Help, please. The voice came again, faint, barely above a whisper. It sliced through the storm like a beacon, familiar yet haunting. Clara's heart lurched. Maggie was just the beginning, she thought, blocking out the rising fear. They would find whoever it was. They couldn't afford to lose anyone else. They arrived at a gap in the wreckage, the air hung heavy with powdery snow dust. Clara swallowed hard, scanning the area. Her breath clouded above her as she called out, Hello. Is anyone there? This time the response was a small whimper, and Clara's heart shattered. It wasn't just a cry for help. It was a plea for someone to care. Her pulse quickened as she moved deeper into the wreckage, Thomas right behind her. Look! He shouted, pointing toward a pile slightly off to the left. Clara's eyes followed and locked onto a small figure huddled beneath a jagged edge of debris. A child. Stay back! Clara barked as she rushed forward, adrenaline surging. She carefully navigated the broken wood, her heart racing as she approached the boy. He was shivering, curls tangled around his face, cheeks flushed pink from the cold. It's okay, bud, I got you, she whispered, kneeling beside him. Can you tell me your name? Liam, he stammered through chattering teeth. My sister, she's hurt. He pointed toward another tangle of debris with wide, terrified eyes. Clara's stomach twisted. Where is she? Is she trapped too? He nodded, tears glistening. Underneath, but I can't get her. She was standing up when everything fell. Thomas crouched beside Clara, urgency etched into his features. We need to hurry, he said, scanning the wreckage. There's no time to waste. Clara glanced at Liam, then at Thomas. You stay with him, she instructed, her voice firm but gentle. I'll go check for her. As she pushed back against the unstable beams, a chill gripped her. The thought of what they might find there threatened to swallow her whole. But she couldn't falter. Not now. Just a little further, she murmured under her breath. And then she spotted a small, dirt-smudged hand peeking through a chunk of wood. The sight propelled her forward, and she gritted her teeth, forcing more rubble aside. Come on, I got you, Clara whispered, heart racing. Suddenly, the structure shifted, and she faltered, fear ricocheting through her body. Thomas! She yelled over her shoulder. I need help. Now! He was at her side in an instant, eyes wide with urgency. Together, they lifted the nearest beam as Clara dug beneath it. On 3, we lift! He shouted, and Clara's heart soared. 1, 2, 3! They grunted and pushed, the beam pivoting precariously. Desperation drove them, the boy's sister was just out of reach. Finally, there she was. Clara grasped the girl's small wrist, and hope surged through her veins. I've got her, she said, but as they worked to pull her free, the sound of creaking wood filled the air once more. Get ready! Thomas shouted, their lives hanging in the balance as Clara braced herself for the fallout. Just as they freed her, the structure groaned ominously. Clara winced, her body frozen in instincts of self-preservation. Now! Thomas shouted, get her out! The girl's eyes fluttered open, sunlight reflecting the mischievous energy Clara remembered from her school days. Then came the crashing sound, muffled screams, and a desperate rush of air wiped Clara's hope. Clean. Thud. The world went dark. As Clara teetered on the edge of consciousness, all she could think was, did we save her? And even as darkness pulled her under, the echoes of a distant voice lingered, one words now more precious than before. Help! The urgency returned, boiling her blood as the void surrounded her. But who was left to save? Clara fought against the dark, a swirling void that tugged at her thoughts. She was slipping. Every instinct told her to surrender, to just let go. But the echo of that single word pulled her back. Help! Somewhere, a flicker of awareness ignited. Clara pushed against the heaviness, her lungs aching as she clawed for air. She could barely move, but she could feel warmth surrounding her. Someone had pulled her from the darkness. Clara! Stay with me! Thomas's voice broke through the haze, urgency laced into each word. He was close, in the thick of it, still fighting. With sheer will, Clara opened her eyes. Blurry shapes began to come into focus, but pain seared through her head. The snowstorm had quieted, leaving only the faint sound of wind whispering around them. She could vaguely see Thomas, frantic and pale but alive, his eyes searching her face for any signs of life. Where's the girl? She croaked, straining to remember the weight of the child in her grip. A flash of anguish crossed Thomas's face. I got her! She's safe. Relief washed over him. He exhaled loudly, and Clara suddenly felt herself ease slightly, tension loosening its grip. Liam? She whispered, testing the world around her. Is he safe? Yes, with her, Thomas assured, his voice steadier now. You saved them, Clara. You did it. But as she struggled to sit up, a wave of nausea crashed over her. Her muscles were heavy, strained by the effort, and as she shifted, a sharp pulse of pain shot through her leg. She squeezed her eyes shut, a moan escaping her lips, but the warmth of hope flickered. Rest, just rest, Thomas said softly, brushing the snow from her hair. They're waiting. It's okay. Clara laid back down, inhaling the scent of cold air mingled with wood and earth. The world was still unstable, But now she could hear faint voices, children's laughter mixed with the sound of a gentle stream nearby. "How long?" she murmured, almost to herself. "Not long now," he said, his smile dim but genuine. "We're going to get out of here." As they surveyed the wreckage, Clara turned her attention to the small figure of Liam, huddled over his sister on the far side of the remnants of their former home. He was talking, his little hands animated as he explained something to her, showing her the first signs of life again. Clara was filled with an overwhelming sense of gratitude, washed fresh by a wave of hope. "I thought I lost you," Liam's small voice broke through the air, full of innocence and relief. Clara felt the emotional wave of his words, hitting her deeper than she thought possible. In that moment, the cold world outside seemed to melt away. The walls didn't feel like a prison anymore, but a sanctuary for these children. "We got you!" Clara reached out to them, voice thick with emotion. Liam looked up, his eyes wide, brimming with tears. "You came for us." A surge of warmth spread through Clara's chest, and she nodded firmly. "Always." But just as relief washed over her, a distant rumble echoed through the wreckage. Clara sensed it, a shuddering beneath their feet, an ominous warning. "Thomas," she breathed, eyes widening. The sound crescendoed, heralding disaster as more debris began to shift. Clara felt fear seep into her every fiber. "We need to move. Now." But even as they scrambled, a sharp creak filled the air, and they all froze, tethered between hope and impending doom. "Run!" Clara shouted, and for a moment she hesitated with a sudden realization they couldn't leave anyone behind. Just as she turned back to help, a heavier crack echoed across the space, sealing off their escape. The walls trembled ominously, breathing danger into an already fragile existence. There was no time to think. The one question loomed larger than the rest: could they really secure everyone's safety? The scene shifted, desperation wrapped around them, leaving Clara to wonder if courage alone would carry them through the storm. But what if they couldn't escape this time? Clara's heart raced as the ground shook beneath her, a visceral reminder of the danger surrounding them. The air felt heavy, thick with unease, and the children's wide eyes mirrored her dread. "Liam! Come here!" she called, her voice strained as she fought against the rising tide of panic. But every moment felt like an eternity, and the rumble grew louder, the creaks more sinister. "Stay close, both of you," Thomas barked, his eyes scanning the shifting remains. He gestured toward a narrow gap in the wreckage that might lead to safety. They had to move fast. With a grunt, Clara pushed herself into a sitting position, biting back the wave of nausea threatening to pull her under again. The pain in her leg was sharp, but she forced herself to stand, leaning heavily against the nearby wall. "Clara!" Thomas' voice cut through the chaos. He was standing, waiting for her. He wouldn't leave without her. That thought anchored her as she reached for Liam and his sister. "Let us go," Clara urged, gripping Liam's small hand, grounding herself in their connection. She felt his pulse beat against hers, a steady thrum of life that ignited her resolve. They darted toward Thomas, squeezing through the wreckage, the walls vibrating like a living beast warning them to hurry. Clara's heart sank. There was more at stake now than just her own safety, and that knowledge fueled her steps. The children followed closely, their footsteps soft but filled with determination. Clara could see the fear clouding their faces, children too young to fully understand the danger, yet old enough to feel its weight. "Just a little further," Thomas shouted, starting to pull debris aside. "We can get through here." But another violent shudder rumbled through the structure, forcing them to stagger. Clara felt a cold sweat on her brow. It was as if the ruins themselves were fighting against them, reluctant to let go of what had been lost within their grasp. "Clara! We have to go now," Thomas urged again, his eyes wide and desperate. A flash of movement caught Clara's attention. A wooden beam began to tilt precariously overhead. Her instincts screamed at her to move. "Quickly!" She pulled Liam and his sister close, pushing them forward. Dodging debris and scrambling over the wreckage, they reached the gap, the narrow opening barely wide enough for the four of them. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she realized just how close they were. Freedom was just beyond that thin sliver. "Liam!" she called. "I'm scared," he whimpered, glancing back at the dark maw of the wreckage looming behind them, a haunting reminder of what waited if they didn't make it. "Look at me," Clara said, her voice steady despite the quivering inside. "You're brave, Liam. We can do this together. I'll be right behind you." The words tumbled out, filled with hope and urgency. Liam took a deep breath, swallowed hard, and pushed through the gap, followed swiftly by his sister. Clara caught Thomas's understanding gaze. They could do this. They had to. "Go!" Clara urged him, now feeling the weight of the crumbling structure above them. She watched as he squeezed through, his determination radiating like a beacon. For a heartbeat, she hesitated, the instinct to protect them battling with the knowledge that they could be running out of time. She took one last glance back at the devastation, the darkness still hungry, and she exhaled sharply. "I'm coming!" With one final surge of strength, she lunged forward, forcing her body through the opening just as the ground shook violently again, debris crashing down behind her. She didn't stop to look back, she couldn't. Emerging on the other side, they tumbled into the snowy expanse, finally free. But as Clara gasped for breath, the landscape around them stirred with an unsettling energy. Beyond the wreckage loomed a forest, dark and thick with trees, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. A chill coursed through Clara's veins, a new threat looming in the shadows. "Clara," Thomas said, pulling her into a protective embrace. "We're out, but we're not safe yet." Trembling, Clara looked over Thomas's shoulder, the forest whispering secrets that made her skin prickle. The darkness still had a hold, and a question loomed large: what else awaited them in the unknown? As the wind howled around them, Clara wondered if they were truly out of danger or just stepping into another nightmare. The wind howled through the trees, a mournful sound that echoed the fears racing in Clara's mind. Her pulse quickened as she took a step forward, her breath visible in the icy air. They were out of the wreckage but standing at the edge of a thick forest that seemed to stretch endlessly. "Where do we go now?" Liam's voice wavered, full of uncertainty. Clara knelt down to meet his gaze, brushing the snow from his hair. "Right now, we just stick together," she reassured him, trying to project calm. "We need to keep moving." Thomas stood at the edge of the tree line, searching for signs of a path, squinting through the swirling snowflakes. The forest loomed ominously, dark and dense. Each tree whispered its secrets, making Clara feel like they were being watched. She took a deep breath, trying to shove aside her instincts telling her to run. "We should find a clearing," Thomas suggested, glancing back. "It might be safer than wandering aimlessly. Just keep moving, and we'll find a way." "Do you hear that?" Clara asked, her senses on high alert. A low rumble seemed to come from the depths of the woods, like a distant growl. Thomas paused, turning towards Clara, his expression shifting from determination to concern. "It's probably just the wind," he said, though his voice was edged with doubt. "No, it feels different. Like something is alive out there," she replied, anxiety creeping into her chest. The children looked at her, their wide eyes reflecting the same fear she felt. "Clara, we need to go," Thomas urged. With a swift nod, she helped Liam and his sister up, and they stepped tentatively into the shadow of the trees. As they walked deeper into the forest, the world around them dimmed. The sun's light barely penetrated the heavy branches overhead, creating an eerie twilight. Clara tried to keep her thoughts focused, but the feeling of something lurking in the shadows was overpowering. Each snap of a twig underfoot felt like a gunshot in the silence. "Do you think we'll find other people?" Thomas asked, breaking their silence as they weaved through the trees. "Maybe someone who can help us." "I don't know," Clara responded, her voice fading. "But we have to try. We can't give up, not now." Suddenly, Liam stumbled, nearly falling into the snow. Clara caught him before he could hit the ground, but the sound of his fall echoed ominously. Clara glanced up, instincts flaring. The whisper in the forest became louder, almost taunting them. "It's just the snow," she whispered to him, though her heart raced as fear flared. Just keep your feet moving. They pressed on, but every moment felt like they were stepping deeper into a nightmare. And then it happened. A shadow flickered just at the edge of their vision. Clara turned, her breath catching. It was gone, but something deep in her chest warned her that they weren't alone. Did you see that? She whispered to Thomas, who nodded, tension rippling across his shoulders. What was it? He asked. I don't know, Clara replied, her voice low. But I think we should hurry. The forest closed in tighter as they tried to move quickly, urgency layering their breaths in the cold air. But there was something there, something they couldn't understand yet. They rounded a large oak, its gnarled roots twisting up like fingers reaching for the ground, and that's when they all heard it, a low, guttural growl echoing through the trees, a promise of danger lurking just ahead. We need to go back, Liam cried, clinging to Clara's leg, his fear palpable. No, Thomas said firmly, we keep moving. We can't let whatever that is find us. Clara's heart raced even faster. But what if it's too late? As they moved forward, a figure stepped out from behind a tree, cloaked in shadows. Clara's breath caught in her throat. Who's there? Thomas shouted, stepping in front of Clara and the children as if he could protect them from whatever this was. The figure only stepped closer, the forest around them falling into an impossible stillness. A sense of dread washed over Clara, knowing they had to confront this new threat before them. What do you want? Clara asked, her voice shaking but resolute. But the response came not in words but in an ominous silence that hung in the air, thick as the shadows enveloping them. And in that moment, Clara realized they were far from alone in this darkness, and the journey to safety was just beginning. What awaited them in that freezing, shadowy expanse? Clara's heart hammered in her chest as she stared at the cloaked figure. The air felt heavy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Liam tightened his grip on her leg, his small body trembling. Stay behind me, Thomas said, his voice low and unyielding. Clara could feel the warmth radiating from the children, but her own senses tingled with cold fear. What do we do now? Liam whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of the growl that still lingered in the air. I don't know, Clara admitted, her eyes never leaving the figure. Just breathe, okay? Stay together. The figure moved slowly from the shadows, revealing more of itself under the dim light filtering through the branches. It was tall, draped in a long, tattered cloak that seemed to meld with the darkness around it. Clara's breath hitched as she searched the obscured features, desperately looking for anything to identify this shadowy presence. Please, Thomas called out, his bravery overshadowed by uncertainty. We're lost. We need help. The figure's face remained hidden, but Clara could feel its gaze cold and piercing, as if it were scanning their very souls. It pointed a long, bony finger deeper into the woods. What does that mean? Clara felt an edge of panic creeping into her voice. Do we follow it? Thomas asked, swallowing hard. The growl echoed again, louder and more menacing this time, as if the forest itself was warning them away from this strange entity. Clara glanced at the children, seeing the fear splayed across their innocent faces. No, she finally said. We don't follow it. We have to find another way. Just as she turned to lead them back the way they came, the cloaked figure stepped forward, deliberately blocking their escape. Clara's stomach dropped, and panic surged through her as the figure slowly pulled back its hood, revealing a face twisted with age and hidden in shadows. Leave this place or be claimed by the night, the figure spoke, its voice a haunting whisper that seemed to blend with the rustling branches. What? Clara gasped, frozen in disbelief. You cannot stand here, it continued, gesturing toward the darkness of the deep woods behind it. The creatures awaken. You must go now. Clara took a step back, heart racing even faster. Creatures? What creatures? The hungry ones, it replied, the malice dripping from each word. They come as shadows but bite as memories. Liam pressed against Clara's side, eyes wide as he pulled back into her coat. I don't want to see them, he murmured, tears threatening to spill from his eyes. Let us help you, Thomas pleaded, his voice edged with desperation. What do we do? The figure seemed to consider this, the silence stretching thin like a fragile thread. Clara held her breath, hoping, praying for an answer, for some glimmer of guidance amidst the dark. Follow me, it finally said, stepping aside and revealing a narrow path between the trees, barely discernible in the gloom. Quickly, Clara exchanged glances with Thomas, unsure of all they had just heard. Do we trust it? She whispered, but the question seemed futile. The ominous growling had intensified, and the feeling of time running out pressed against her. Clara? Thomas urged, urgency flooding his voice. We don't have a choice. With a final look at the shadowy figure, Clara nodded, heart pounding in fear and uncertainty. We stay together, no matter what, she warned the children and led the way, stepping onto the path. The forest felt alive, the trees leaning closer as if to listen to their every step. As they moved, the low growl transformed into a chaotic cacophony, a multitude of whispers intertwining with the rustling leaves. Clara tried to drown out the noise, focusing on the path ahead. Fear swelled within her chest. Each step felt like a countdown to something terrible. Clara, Liam whispered, pulling her closer, what if we can't make it out? His words pierced her heart, and she felt the weight of her own uncertainty. We have to be brave, she replied, more to herself than him. We can't let this place break us. Suddenly, the growling sound shifted to something more sinister, sounds of limbs moving, and rustling leaves pierced through the air with urgency. Clara looked back in horror, the darkness shifting in the underbrush, revealing flickers of eyes glimmering back at them. Run! She shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins as they pushed forward. But even as they sprinted deeper into the forest, Clara could feel the weight of something chasing them. She feared their journey had just begun, and the path ahead might reveal secrets she was not ready to confront. What awaited them behind the shadows of the trees? Would Clara's courage be enough to protect them from what lurked in the darkness? The forest closed in around Clara, Thomas, and the kids as they raced down the narrow path, branches clawing at them like the shadows pursuing them. Every rustle echoed in their ears, heightening the panic in Clara's chest. She pushed forward, leading the way, hoping and praying for safety. Just keep moving, she urged, her voice slicing through the thick tension. Thomas followed closely, protective determination etched on his face, while Liam and his sister stumbled behind them, fear mirrored in their wide eyes. Shadows darted just out of view, and beneath the heavy branches, the feeling of being hunted weighed down on them like the looming storm. Clara! Thomas called out, we need to find cover. Clara's heart raced as they skidded to a halt in a small clearing. Distant growls vibrated through the trees, a reminder that danger was still looming. Over there! She shouted, pointing at a thick clump of bushes. They dashed toward it, tucking themselves in tight, hearts racing as they pressed against the comforting weight of branches surrounding them. Are they gone? Liam whispered, his breath shaky and filled with dread. Clara couldn't answer, her own heart thundering too loudly in her ears. Silence enveloped them, but it was a fragile stillness. The air felt thick with anticipation. After several agonizing moments, Thomas ventured a glance through the leaves. I think we're safe for now, he whispered while a wave of relief washed over their small group. Clara looked at the kids, searching their faces for any signs of reassurance. We'll be okay, she said, trying to believe her own words. Let us rest for a moment. But what about the shadows? Liam pressed, tears pooling in his eyes. Clara knelt in front of him, looking him in the eyes. We'll face them together. But right now, we need to catch our breath. But as they steadied themselves, the growls emerged from the dark, low and insistent. The air shifted, then Clara felt a sudden chill. Stay quiet, she urged, her heart racing again. Just as they all settled into silence, a low cough echoed through the air, jarring them back into a state of alertness. From behind a thicket emerged the cloaked figure once more. Clara felt her breath hitch in her throat. What do we do? She asked urgently, heart pounding. Follow me, it commanded softly, urging them once again toward the thicket. Thomas grasped Clara's arm, uncertain. We can't keep trusting this thing. he whispered sharply. We don't know what it wants. Look at the children, Clara replied urgently, her gaze piercing into Thomas's. If it can help us, we have to take a chance. With a reluctant nod, Thomas led the way toward the figure, followed closely by the two children. They crept forward, the figure gliding ahead of them, its cloak whispering against the trees. Clara felt both an unease and an odd sense of trust in its movements. Tell us where we're going, Thomas snapped as they walked deeper into the shadows. The figure paused, the shadows around it pulsing like they were alive. To safety, it replied cryptically, but you must stay close. But the dense trees twisted and turned, almost mocking them, as they navigated through the darkness. Clara stole glances at Thomas, who looked furiously torn between despair and hope. They followed the figure until they reached what felt like a cave, draped with thick vines and condensation. Inside, quickly, the figure urged. They stepped into the mouth of the cave, dread coiling tighter around them. Clara led the children inside, shielding Liam and his sister with her arms. As they settled in, darkness enveloping them, the shadows behind them shifted, and then quiet filled the air. Relief washed over Clara momentarily. What now? She whispered. Now we wait, the figure said, almost soothingly. They'll pass if you remain still. What do you mean, who will pass? Thomas asked, his eyes narrowing, but the figure didn't answer. Clara shared a glance with Thomas, fear swirling in both their hearts. What are we waiting for? Clara mouthed, unsure of what to expect next, and then the whispers returned. Voices. Faint and beautiful, they flitted through the cave, mingling with apologies and laughter. The lost ones, a distant voice echoed, filling the cavernous space. Clara's heart ached. Fragments of forgotten memories danced around her mind. No way, she breathed, recognizing the voice of her father, forever etched in her heart. Grief pulled at her, but she shook it off, pushing more determinedly. Stay strong, we can't be lulled into their call, she silently reminded herself and her brother. Suddenly, shadows swarmed around them, menacing yet ghostly, weaving through the air like smoke. Thomas squeezed Clara's hand painfully. What are these? He whispered, terror lacing every word. The shadows are memories, the figure explained. They thrive on your fear. Don't give them power. The shadows crackled, a cacophony of whispers enveloping their ears, voices of their past urging them to surrender. Clara closed her eyes, fighting against the rising tide of emotion. No! We will overcome! She cried out, surprising even herself, and in that moment, something shifted within her. The shadows dimmed, flickering as Clara pushed her light, a newfound illumination of hope and determination against the dark. Together, we fight this! She shouted, her voice ringing out as strength surged through her. Thomas stood tall beside her, gripping Clara's hand. We will not surrender! He yelled, confidence rippling through their small group. The shadows shrieked, beginning to dissolve like morning mist against the dawn. What is happening? Liam exclaimed, wide-eyed and trembling with both fear and awe. They can't haunt us anymore, Clara declared, staring defiantly as they steadied themselves. We are family. We are stronger together. The cloaked figure watched, satisfied, as Clara and Thomas faced down the darkness with the children. As shadows continued to retreat, the figure nodded. You've found your light. Now follow it. Just behind them, a soft glow began to rise, illuminating the cave with warmth and clarity. Clara could hardly believe it. Let us go, she urged, pulling the children along, each step lighter as they moved past lingering shadows. Emerging into the bright light, the forest opened up before them, vibrant greens and flowing air awakening within them. The ominous growls faded, replaced with bird song and laughter carried on the wind. Hope swelled, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. As they stumbled from the forest, Clara turned back to the cloaked figure, a profound gratitude flooding her heart. Thank you? She called out. The figure nodded, a soft smile breaking through the shadows. The power was always within you. With a flick of its cloak, it vanished into the depths of the trees, leaving Clara and her family in a new dawn. Did we really make it? Thomas asked in disbelief, scanning the landscape, the worries of their previous night washing away like a distant nightmare. Clara smiled, her heart full. We did. Together we fought. Liam and his sister's laughter filled the air, the world around them vibrant with unseen possibilities. They took each other's hands, interlocked in an unbreakable bond. The shadows that had haunted them melted into mere memories now, and as they ventured forward into the beauty of a new day, Clara couldn't help but think of their father, his spirit forever guiding them. Each step echoed hope, weaving a path that led to healing, redemption, and love, a future brightened by their courage. This was only the beginning. Now that you've witnessed the Kinney family's incredible journey, it's time to be a part of the next adventure. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and help bring more amazing tales to life. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your thoughts matter to us. And you need to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends. Do not wait to show them the power of transformation and triumph. Together, let us spread these messages of hope far and wide.